Pro-Ject has always been a company I admire. Whenever somebody is looking to upgrade from their, say, their entry-level phono stage, I usually steer them to Pro-Ject's 2-box S2. I always enjoyed that unit. I still have mine. It's sitting right over there on that shelf. I use it for reviews. Depending on what type of equipment I'm reviewing, I'll pull it out and hook it up. I've also purchased and reviewed Pro-Ject's record machine, the VCE2. But oddly enough, I have never, ever checked out one of their turntables. Well, strap in. It's about to change. Before I purchased my Thorns TD160 Super, I owned a lot of turntables, and Pro-Ject was always, near the top of my list when I purchased a turntable. But looking back, I'm not quite sure why I never actually bought one. Regardless, they are a company that I've always respected. They were founded, I believe, around 1991, and they have a great reputation. Their mission is definitely one I can get behind, and you can see it right here on the screen. They are constantly innovating, and this is evident with their next generation of their T series, their T2, which I assume the 2 is generation 2. But before I get to that, I do want to talk about today's sponsor. Another company that innovates are the makers of these storage consoles. They're handmade here in the US by Sidetracked Workshop, and they're made of sturdy wood, high quality construction, and has a hint of a mid-century modern design. And some of their consoles can hold both your record, your growing record collection, and also your turntable. Sidetracked Workshop ships for free in the US, and their consoles arrive fully assembled. When the boxes show up, you just have to unpack it, screw in the feet, and find a spot to showcase your joy of vinyl. And the folks at Sidetracked Workshop are kind enough to offer you, watching right now, a 15% discount at checkout. All you have to do is use the code that you'll find in the description below. Pro-Ject's T2 line comes in 2 flavors. They have their entry-level audiophile table, simply titled T2, and that term, entry-level audiophile, is their term, not mine. I didn't make that one up, but I actually kind of like it. It refers to a person who is maybe new to the finer qualities of audio playback, is just getting into it, and are beginning to invest their money into better equipment. So I do like that term, entry-level audiophile. A lot of us started out that way. But that's the T2. So that's their standard, their first offering. What we're here to talk about today is the T2 Super Phono. And the only difference between the T2 and the T2 Super Phono is the fact that the Super Phono has a built-in phono stage, thus the Super Phono. We'll get into that a little bit later. We'll talk about the phono stage a little bit later. I do want to talk about the T2 features, and these features are across the line, both the T2 and the T2 Super Phono. All of Pro-Ject's turntables are built by hand in the Czech Republic, and the plinth is solid. There aren't any hollow spaces or internal spaces for electronics, so resonance is minimized. And that's actually going to be the word of the day, resonance. Resonance mitigation is the focus here. The T2 has a belt-driven design, and it's got a nice quiet motor, and the motor sits off to the side of the platter. You've seen this on other turntables, and it's a great design to keep any motor vibrations away from the platter. And the platter itself is solid glass, and I do mean solid. Again, this is a resonance killer. And it comes with a felt mat as well. So we have a nice solid plinth, we have a thick glass platter, we have a motor that sits off to the side to reduce vibrations or to help reduce vibrations at the platter level. And then we have something else that they've added, because they didn't stop there. They've also added, and I always say this wrong, vibration absorption feet. I actually said it right that time. And you can actually feel those absorption feet at work. Now, I could stop there. I mean, there's really a lot to admire with just what I said. But what really impressed me about this turntable is the tone arm. Recently, I started my own education into the forces that are working against proper vinyl playback. I'm constantly learning, and every time I learn something new, I want to talk about it. But when we're talking about forces acting against your playback, nothing helps more than Wally tools. And I've been using the Wally Skater to check those forces, the horizontal forces, and also the Wally Tractor to properly align the cartridge. Now, both of these are offered by Wally Tools, and I did a whole video on that, but I don't want to not mention them here because I use them daily now. And that's how I checked the tone arm on the Super Phono. My RB330 tone arm on my Thorns performed exceptionally well when I tested both the horizontal forces and also, static friction, working against the tone arm and the tone arm's internal forces. And I expected it to for my RB330. The T2's 9-inch aluminum tone arm tested perfectly, and I'm not kidding, perfectly on both of those tests. It also made setting the anti-skate easy. And that's another thing that's new to the T-line with the T2 series. It's a spring-based anti-skate adjustment. Setting this up really was simple and a pleasure. Another thing I enjoyed was the Sumiko Rainier cartridge. This cartridge has an elliptical stylus and is a perfect pairing with the T2's tone arm. Let's talk about the built-in phono stage because it's not just one of those everyday throwaway built-in phono stages. Pro-Ject installed a dual-stage split passive design, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But I guess it uses some of the same circuitry as their entry-level phono stage, the Box S2. Now going back to that dual-stage split passive design, the split passive equalization works by dividing the RIAA curve between two passive networks at different amplification stages. That first network applies partial equalization after the initial gain stage, while the second one handles the remaining equalization after the second gain stage. Out of curiosity, I compared the built-in phono stage to my Pro-Ject $2 S2 phono stage, and they were surprisingly similar. The tube S2 was a little bit warmer, and you get that with tubes. I mean, you expect that. But it was nice to know that it wasn't, just this night and day experience. The built-in phono stage was really, really well done. I threw a few things at the built-in just to check it out. I listened to Ozzy, I listened to Marshall Tucker Band, I threw on some old Molly Hatchet and Neil Young, and at the very end some Paul Simon. And yeah, if I didn't have other phono stages here to play around with, and all I had was that built-in, I wouldn't be disappointed. And as with most built-ins, you do have the option to turn it off and just go with your own. Another thing that I was impressed with, it's minor, but it still impressed me, was when I opened the box, I found that they also ship these. This is their E-Series cables, now, or RCA cables. And these aren't just those, flimsy RCA cables that you find for $5 somewhere. I think Pro-Ject sells these as standalone cables for maybe starting around $50 or so. So, kudos to Pro-Ject. I know this turntable's target market are folks who have an entry-level turntable and are looking to upgrade to something mid-level. This is mid-level, but it is solidly near the top of mid-level. The tone arm alone, I hate that the cliche phrase punches above its weight. I mean, everybody uses that, but it really does punch above its weight. I'm going to say that. The attention to resonance mitigation alone is worth it, and the tone arm's performance is what you would find on a more expensive unit. It's another mid-level win, and it's been a great couple of months reviewing turntables. I have not been disappointed yet. If you want to check out the most recent one, just check out this video over here. And always, as always, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, please take care of yourself and enjoy your records.